Hello guys, it's Chunks here doing another Bakugan discussion. So this time we have what made BakuTech the best Bakugan game. So originally I was going to make this video a little bit differently. I was going to just ask which Bakugan game is the best, but I think BakuTech is like pretty clearly the best one. The TCG has some merit, we'll talk about that when we get to it, but aside from that, nothing else even gets anywhere close, so I don't think there's need to even ask the question like that in the title, so that said, the video itself is mostly the same, aside from just kind of how I'm framing it, but kind of just go over some of the things I like and dislike about different games within Bakugan. I'm not going into the entire rule set, I'm not getting in-depth, these are like very basic overviews, not even getting into like a lot of the rules, because if I did all that, we'd be here for like 4 hours. I'm not trying to do that. Maybe I'll do like individual videos at some point, but it's going to be pretty basic overviews, just talking about, again, what I like, what I don't like, so let's go and get started. I was originally just going to go kind of gen by gen, but I'll say BakuTech for last, and we're going to go out of order here and start with something I just kind of want to get out of the way, I guess. Gen 3. Okay, Gen 3 was bad. Like, it's just bad. The game, like, what game is there really? But the game here is supposed to be like, you get the field that's overpriced, and you buy other Bakugan, and then you have to, like... Okay, so each person gets a couple gate cards here, and, supposed to get 2 other ones with your opponent, and you each, like, make, like, a 4-card field. I only have these 2. I only bought 1 product from this gen. I refused to buy more, so... Anyway, so you do that, cool, and then you have to spin your Bakugan, or roll them. I mean, you get 3 of them, but anyway. There's, like, these weird, like, things that allow you to just kind of, like, drop them on and they roll for you, basically. The whole thing's, like, just random. The thing is, the gate cards are supposed to actually have, like, zones, which is actually a pretty cool idea. I like the idea of zones having different effects, but, like, you put this in a gen where the Bakugan are random, it doesn't work. And then also, the card, I don't like these cards, but, the character, like the Bakugan cards, like these weird half cards, but yeah, they have different stats that are meant to line up with different, like, spots on the gate card, which I don't think they did this very well, because it's just like, oh, whichever thing you land on is a stat you get. I think they should have done bonuses or other things like that. Could have been interesting, but they didn't. Also, special attacks are inherently busted, because you get special attack cards that are meant to, like, pair with them, and, like, all those stats are just better. So, yeah. You are limited to only 2. You have to use 1 regular Bakugan, but who cares, honestly. It's basically just a bunch of random nonsense. It doesn't do anything. Also, there were, like, brawler cards. So, normally, I think there's, like, a super basic version of the game where you just have to, like, stand Bakugan, which is hilarious, but, the main game, yeah, you're supposed to, like, do that stuff with the character cards, compare who gets the higher number based on which random zone they got, but, if you want to play the best rules, you can use these brawler cards, which I only have 3 of, because you can have up to 6, but, I only have 3 of them. Again, I only bought 1 product, I'm not buying more, and and the gen's over anyway, but yeah. But here's the funny thing. So at first it's like, okay, 6 cards, maybe you could do something with that, but no, you have to, like, get these, and you, like, randomly just, like, shuffle them around and whatever, and then you put them face down, and then every time you get into battle, you, like, pick one up, and then you add whatever stat there is, and that's all there is. It's just basically an extra addition step. Figure out what zone you randomly landed on, and then you get that one thing, like the one stat. Maybe do addition with a second number if it's a special type Bakugan, and then maybe a third if you have a brawler card, because you're playing with advanced rules. So yeah, this game's horrible. Like, it's like, there's a couple things I could say, like, okay, yeah, zones, cool idea. Maybe having, like, zone-based bonuses. That's actually not a bad idea. I actually liked that. And I like how, like, I hate the spinning Bakugan. I hate these, like, things here, but they have, like, ideas with, like, different, like physical attributes to them, based on if they're, like, titanium or gold or something like that, which there are ideas here, for sure. It's just they didn't capitalize on them correctly, and, like, the whole gen with spinning and just being random was, just not good. I really, really don't like this. There's not many good things I could say about this, gen. The gameplay was atrocious. Okay, moving into something that's not completely terrible. Gen 1. So Gen 1. So technically the first thing was HSP, which required you to use 3 Bakugan and 3 gate cards, but it was interesting. Like you had to you battled like pretty normally, like, you rolled your Bakugan out. It was mainly G power battles. Double stands were a thing though, so if you got 2 Bakugan on the same card, you won the card. That was cool. But interestingly, like in G power battles, you like capture your opponent's Bakugan and just like make them run out of Bakugan, which would force them out of the game. Also, instead of just winning gate cards and letting that be like the thing that dictates victories, you'd win. Well, you're supposed to win like every gate card on the field, and then afterwards you tell it the hollow sector points. HSP. Yeah, you total that up based on the numbers on the cards, and whoever the most won. It was an interesting idea. I think the basic idea of it was actually better than like what we got for the base idea of Gen 1 afterwards. But I mean, it was really bare bones and needed some help and just never really developed very far, so it just feels cool, but yeah, it didn't actually develop. Now, as far as the main game goes, yeah, like double stands, you have to like move your Bakugan. It's not as interesting, and now you just have like with the field setup, you just have like one card there, and you put your card there, and their opponent puts their card like here. 2 cards, unless if you have more players, but yeah, anyway. As far as what you need for the base game, you needed 3 Bakugan and 3 gate cards initially, but pretty quickly they added in ability cards as well, so yeah, you can have extra bonuses. And unlike the Brawler cards from Gen 3, these, you like always had access to all of them, and you could like use them like when you wanted or when they applied, and they were like one-use cards. So they were cool. They were cool. So yeah, the main game, it was just kind of G power battles. Roll your back onto the card. You're on the same card as your opponent. Okay, G power battle. Apply the bonuses and effects from the gate card. Play ability cards. It was cool, but pretty bare bones. I think it was less interesting than HSP. So they added stuff over time. And this is the problem of the game. You had a pretty basic game that was, I don't think, all that interesting, to be honest, but support pieces became a thing. So now you could have a new story they added in traps. So traps, let me actually keep a gate card over here, but traps were this thing that you could just add on, and they basically changed attributes for you. You could use them, change your attribute, had like different effects on like cards and stuff. It was cool. It was a pretty good method of a support piece, I would say. So in Good Elevators, they decided to add a new support piece, which is fair enough. And this time around, they opted to add in Battle Gear. Battle Gear were things you could use on Bakugan that would give G power bonuses, and they'd also come with their own reference card. So these were independent of your gate cards and ability cards. If a reference card applied to a piece, you could use it, and it was meant to be used when the thing itself was actually, in play. So that was pretty cool. But then later in Good Elevators, we kept getting more stuff, and we kind of got a second piece, like which are mobile assaults. These are technically still just battle gear, except giant. A lot of people don't like mobile assaults because they're really clunky. I actually am probably one of the few people who actually likes these a lot, because here's the thing. You also, you get a reference card with it that you could use, but you have to commit to these. So while yes, you get higher rewards out of them with like G power, it's risk and reward because you have to put your Bakugan on these and then actually roll it onto the field. So if you miss, I mean, well, there's risk to that, but yeah, you have to commit to using this in a battle before you even roll, which I think is an interesting idea. Yes, they're kind of clunky and stupid, but I kind of like them at the same time. Also, one other thing we got in Good Elevators were like Super Evolution Bakugan. These things were basically you have to tie one of your Bakugan to this thing. That be like this has to be like a low enough G power to tie this. This isn't like a correct setup, by the way. I'm just using it as an example. But anyway, and you have like an evolution card, these purple back cards, and if you met the conditions on the cards, you could like there's like gate win conditions, like how many gate cards on one. Do you have the right Bakugan? Is it the right G power? If that was correct, you could, slap this thing down, use it, and then you could evolve, like skip a turn and evolve your Bakugan into this. So that was an idea, but yeah, now you have a special fourth Bakugan that has a card that ties it to one of your other Bakugans, so another thing. Cool. Also, it's worth noting that there are 2 support piece slots. You can only have 2 support pieces, which is important because they kept adding them. So we kept getting more and more support pieces, and I should probably have left this there, but anyway. And this really gets to its worst point in Titanium Surge with Mectagon, which I'll just lay down, I guess, but Mectagon, oh boy, these, yeah, you just plop these down, they give you a G-Power bonus, and they have another effect which we'll get back to in a little bit, but they have their own G-Power bonuses. They also have ability cards instead of reference cards, so if you want to use the ability of this thing, it requires one of your ability card slots, so there's that, but yeah, this is an action figure that is much larger than a Bakugan, which just makes it very clunky. Yeah, I don't like these. Mectagon Titans are even larger and more powerful, and well, they're also more expensive. I couldn't be asked to dig them out though, but they're like the same thing functionally. Again, they also have an extra function that we'll get back to later, but yeah. Also in Arc 1 of Titanium Surge, we got a new type of piece, Baku Nano, and these weren't support pieces, they were their own thing. You can get 3 of them, and these 3, they tie to different gate cards. You can only use them on certain types of gate cards, and like if it matched like the color of the Baku Nano matched the color of the gate card, and then if you use these in a battle, you discard them after. They're just small G-Power boosts, but if you use them in conjunction with a Mectagon or Mectagon Titan, you could actually put them in your use pile or use them later. So that was like the whole idea was like you use Mectagon to kind of get these back, right? That was like a cool extra feature that they had. But yeah, these things were pretty simple. They kind of just like pop open. They're not magnetic, unfortunately, but yeah, they're just these tiny pieces, and yeah, they're just small boosts, and just add more clutter to the game, in my opinion. So, not ideal. And then, in the second half of Titanium Surge, we got another new support piece, Battle Suits. These are basically just mobile assaults. They also had their own reference cards, except now you just place them on the field. Amazing. Yeah, I don't like this, so I think mobile assaults still had higher G-Power overall, but I mean, these things were just like trying to replace those without the skill, which just makes them so much worse. Also, they're like gimmicky Bakugan. There were Baku Fusions, which I didn't grab, but I probably should have, but anyway, I didn't bring them over here, but yeah. Baku Fusions, they just allowed you, if you get 2 Baku on the same card, you double stand, which was kind of just going back to old rules, like BakuTech rules, but anyway. The main things were Sky Raiders. These things could jump. They had like different sections on them that would like allow them to jump when they landed, and these also came with reference cards. You place them on the field, so somewhere on the field, and when they opened up, they jumped, and if they land on the reference card, you get a special bonus. So yeah, cool. So that is basically Gen 1, and you could see the problem. It's a really basic and kind of bland game, but there's so much bloat. So if I were to want to, let's just say, okay, to get a deck, right, I can get, you know, my 3 gate cards. Probably zoom out for this. 3 gate cards. Okay, cool. I also get 3 ability cards, and I get 3 Bakugan. Alright. Except, these Bakugan, they're also requiring, well, 2 of them require reference cards, so you want to have those as well. And then this one has an evolution that I could tie into it, which is cool, I guess. So there's that. And then I also get 2 support pieces that I can use as well. And these also require their own reference cards. And I also get 3 Baku Nano. This is more of an extreme setup just to show how much there is, but do you see why this is kind of a problem? Yeah, this got out of hand very, very quickly, so... Like, this is just too much clutter going on. Like, they didn't streamline stuff. I don't know what they're trying to do here, but, this mess of a setup here, it doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't. This is, simply put, not ideal. There are good things about Gen 1. Like, again, it was pretty easy to understand. It was easy to pick up and play. But when, like, there's a bunch of exceptions to the rules, like, it also kind of doesn't become easy to play either. It's really weird. I don't know what they were doing here. It started off pretty decently. HSP was great as, like, groundwork, and then they kind of made it worse, and then the way they built on it initially was pretty interesting, but after that, it becomes this absolute just mess of a game. And now we have Gen 2. Gen 2 was weird. So there's the TCG and then also the toy battling game. I'm going to start with the toy battling game because it's easier to talk about. You kind of just get like 3 gate cards and the 3 Bakugan to go along with these. And there you go. You can also, your 3 character cards that correspond to your Bakugan. This is pretty straightforward. You also could use like a Geogon, and like you could use one, like you just like drop these down the field as a substitution. And there's Nanogon. I believe these were in the form of cards. You use 3 Nanogon cards with these. You don't have to use like the physical play, I don't think, but yeah. This is just, and like it was, yeah, just like in a B Power edition. It just felt like an even more stripped back version of Gen 1. And also, it wasn't as cluttered, but considering it was also more stripped back, it also felt kind of cluttered. It's like Nanogon rules were weird, and Geogon were there. You had your Bakugan, which it was even more just of a basic game. I don't really like what they did with Gen 2's toy battling game at all. It was just super uninteresting, and again, worse than what we saw in Gen 1, I would say. Less bloated, sure, but just even more interesting. So, that said, the TCG. This was actually kind of interesting, because yes, you had, your 3 Bakugan with their, corresponding character cards, which I think is... I mean, the character cards were like a pretty cool idea, I would say, just like kind of keep everything together. So you had all these, which was, again, I would just say nice. So that's cool. You also had 6 Baku cores, which you're meant to, with your opponent, make like a cool like centerpiece, the hide matrix, and yeah, you got 6 of these different Baku cores here. So you could just kind of, well, I mean, not like this, but you make like a thing where you like put the sides together, and all 12 of them between you and your opponents would make a field, which was it was pretty cool. It was a cool idea. Probably more interesting than like the gate card thing they tried to do, but yeah, I still prefer gate cards, but with how the reboot worked or Gen 2 worked, I did prefer cores, so yeah. But the biggest thing was that you also got a 40 card deck, so that was kind of crazy. So now, you and your opponent, you rolled at the same time. You roll onto a core, or maybe 2 cores, you double cord. So then you grab your Bakugan, and you check, the character card, what core you got. After that, then you get into your ability cards. So, it was a TCG. Cool. It did something. And yes, I would say overall this is the second best game, because it's actually a game. That said, I don't like TCGs personally, so I don't really know what to say about like the gameplay itself. I didn't really like the energy cost stuff and like the damage. I feel like you were just kind of like throwing away cards, which I just thought was really boring. I know like throwing away cards and like discarding them, it's not like an uncommon thing. It just felt really extreme, like you just could not use your cards, which was annoying. But also, I feel like it took away from Bakugan. Bakugan themselves were relegated to a skill mechanic. You roll with your Bakugan with your opponent, alright, they land on cores, and after that, yeah, it's just go into your character card, what core did you get, how does that all play, okay, ability cards. I feel like the Bakugan themselves were much, much less of a thing, like physically. Gen 3, as bad as it was, at least, like, cause it was focused on the Bakugan, I guess, but it wasn't good, so, I mean, I take this over that, but anyway. But, like, Gen 1, also it's a toy battling game. With those, well, toy battling game as much, but Gen 1, like, yeah, you had like the G power and the Bakugan. So when you're in your gate card battles, you look at the gate cards, effects, its bonuses, but you also look at your Bakugan's G power. Then you had like actual physical support pieces, which were not ideal, but they at least did something. There was more to do. I thought it was at least better physically, because again, there's at least a bit more focus on the Bakugan, unlike this. The things like Geogan were added kind of after the TCG was already dead, but if you use these, you could actually have a ton of Geogan cards and Geogan physically if you wanted to, but like I had to just drop these onto the field. It was kind of uninteresting, and I believe if you wanted to use Natagon, they were just like cards, so you didn't have to have them physically, just 3 cards, but yeah, anyway. Those were more so meant for the toy battling game, but still. Yeah, Gen 2, the TCG wasn't a bad idea, I just really wish it didn't take away from any kind of physicality of the Bakugan, because, yeah, it was just kind of a one-turn thing, and then, okay, time for cards. I wasn't a fan of that, I wanted more physicality, but as far as what we got here in the West, this is, like, probably the best thing we've gotten, and in all honesty, probably the best thing we will ever get, but Japan had some other plans. And now we get to BakuTech. Now, originally BakuTech was just kind of based on the regular Japanese rule set, so in Japan things were a little bit different. So you still got, your 3 Bakugan, well, 3 gate cards. I don't know why I mix up. Yeah, 3 gate cards and 3 Bakugan alongside that, which was, cool. But you also got ability cards, and there were actually 6 ability cards instead of just 3, which that was a really bad display of the number 6. There, that's a little bit better. Anyway, so you had more ability cards, also gate cards. You can kind of like place them throughout the game. It's a little bit different. It was pretty cool, but the main draw here for me is the physicality of the Bakugan. Yes, the game itself was just G-Power based, which is still basic, but now you have physicality and other new ways to win. So double stands were also a thing here, so yeah, if you get 2 Bakugan of your own, the same card, uncontested, you win that card. Great. Kind of a defensive way to win, and I guess it'd probably more so be like this guy's block and you get this, but anyway. The big thing are critical hits and critical KOs. So critical hits happen if you were to knock a Bakugan off of a card, and regardless of whether or not you open, you also go off the card. Now, your Bakugan you put back in your hand, and your opponent also has to take their Bakugan back, so that card is now kind of just cleared. But if you knock their Bakugan off and stand, that's a critical KO. Critical KO means that you win the gate card. Very nice. So aside from G-Power battles, there are offense and defense, offensive and defensive options to win gate cards, which is great. So now you have more ways to win. It's really nice. Physicality actually matters here, but it's not just that, because they actually put more into these designs. Look, there's metal all over this thing. Like with metal blades, these are meant to pop out. It's attack oriented. There's metal. You could actually have reason to knock Bakugan off, and also they did things like have more tension in certain springs, like Gogaryu's head here. Sure, you could hear that. It's pretty powerful. It's meant to be, a strong attack. There are stronger than this even, like with Kachiya Gel being a pretty direct comparison. But anyway, it's really cool. And also for defense, like you have Occupancy Bakugan or Defensive Bakugan. Look at Bury Beyond here. This thing just shuts off a side of the card, which is really cool. It's a giant rubber band barrier. That's cool. Also, something like Made Last Boss here. There's more than just offensive defense. There's rolling cells. You could roll Bakugan in very specific ways. Something like the converter system allowed you to kind of change your distribution of metal and do a bunch of different things. Spin shots, curve shots, whatever. You just go, full on with attack. There were different ways to do things. And something like Made Last Boss here, you had this backcourt with metal, and you could position this in 8 different ways. Like this could be better for like defense, or maybe like curve shots. This is just more consistent attack. You could kind of go all on one side, have some like really weird curves. You can go diagonal for like lessened curves, but also just kind of different properties with it. This thing was just kind of crazy, and I think does a great job encapsulating what the kind of convert system was doing, was just kind of having different ideas behind how you utilize the different parts. And also the convert system, yeah, you had different placements of metal which, affected the Bakugan differently. It was really cool. And that's the thing about BakuTech, is that it didn't just add physical ways to win games, it added physicality to the Bakugan. Again, you had actual, attack and defense properties, which is very interesting, but also, yeah, more ways to win in the game. You needed both. You needed the actual rules, and you needed better designs for the Bakugan, and they did that, which is what made the game so interesting. The only downside to BakuTech, I would say, is that the game could get a little bit slow. The ability cards were kind of insane, which is cool, but also being as insane as they were, I feel like the game heavily relied on ability cards, I feel, which I don't like, but then we get to Gachi. So instead of just having kind of a simple field setup and, you and your opponent just are placing gate cards wherever, now they did something else to where now you actually just made a field setup with your opponent to where, like, you would put your own cards, like this, for example, and then they would also put their cards in a similar pattern. And now you had a whole field setup here, which is really, really cool. You just had all the gate cards out there at once, lots to do with that. Which I think, yeah, just having these all out at once. No worry about placing gate cards, it's just the raw physicality of the Bakugan. Also, no more ability cards. So now it's none of that. It's all physicality. And yes, there are still G-Power battles. These things still have G-Power. There are, different effects, on the cards and what they do. So there are still things you could do with them. But it's more focused on the Bakugan stuff, which I think was a good decision. Also, you now roll at the same time, because of course Gen 1, you rolled separately. One person rolled, the next person rolled. It was fine, but rolling at the same time makes this so much more action-packed, I would say, which is really cool. And they also added in a timer. So yeah, after a battle was done, well, a gate card was done, you had 10 seconds to figure your stuff out, roll up a Bakugan, and get it ready to roll when the timer ends. It was interesting, and it added more skill, because now you had to roll your Bakugan, fold up your Bakugan quickly. Another added layer of skill right there, and yeah, this just, the field setup, you get your Bakugan, it just, I don't know, I feel like this just made the game so much cooler. But also, they had more plans here, I feel. Look at something like, Bakugan Armors, for example. Let me just, I guess, disassemble my field here. But, something like Bakugan Armors, I think, really just showed that they had more plans for BakuTech. Well, I guess Bakugan in Japan. Because with these, you had abilities, well, with skill arms, which are also swappable parts. These things were also designed to be physical. Maybe not as much as BakuTech, but still pretty physical. And with these, you get an ability to basically just, change up the game. Anytime the ability applied, you'd use it, so they're like multi-use ability cards, kind of, except they're tied to a Bakugan, which is a really cool compromise. And again, it just focuses more on the Bakugan. I do wish they maybe had, reference cards, because I do think otherwise you have to memorize all these, which kind of sucks. But, still a cool idea. And, of course, with this one, okay, this is the worst gate card possible. Let me go a different one. So, let's use this one. So, just as an example, something like Yashitagaru, 770 Gs. And this also, again, puts more emphasis on G-Power battles. You still have double stands and, critical KOs, but now you also have G-Power stuff as well. And, it was always there, but a little more emphasis on this with armors. 770 Gs, your Darkest bonus, which is nothing. That sucks. Free select allows you to choose another one. Pyrus, 220 Gs. Cool. 990 Gs. So, yeah. So there are also other things like Hadokaya with Blow, which allowed you to force Bakugan back to, your opponent's hand, or Hadokaya with, or not Hadokaya, Kapukadaku with O-Raid, which allowed you to pick up cards and move them around. So there was a lot here with Bakugan Armors, and I think that it had a ton of potential, it just didn't last long, and that's the thing. I think BakuTech was easily the best game of Bakugan we ever had, because it actually gave us physicality. It made Bakugan a unique game. It wasn't just some basic bloated game like we saw in Gen 1 or the toy battle game in Gen 2. It wasn't a TCG that kind of, I would say, abandoned the Bakugan in a lot of ways, like we saw in the TCG in Gen 2. And yeah, it actually had skill, unlike Gen 3. And yeah, the Bakugan were the centerpiece, and while G-Power battles were a thing, there were just so many other ways to win with, double stands and critical KOs that were more interesting. But again, G-Power battles were also a strategy. There were just so many different ways that you could kind of build teams, and I think it was just super interesting. And I wish Armors continued, because I think there was a lot more to do there, but unfortunately, well, it didn't. I think BakuTech was amazing, but I think that it needed to be built on a little bit more. I think it could have done that over time, it's just that it got canned too quickly, so my only real negative to BakuTech is that it could have used a little bit more development to maybe add some more cool features that would have actually, impacted the game and worked well within it and weren't just random additions like adding a bunch of support pieces. So yeah, that's like my only criticism. Other than that, I think it just utilized Bakugan the best of anything. Like it made the concept work as its own game, which kind of hadn't been done before. They were kind of more of a skill mechanic than anything. So yeah, this is definitely the best we ever got. So there you go. That's why I think BakuTech is just the best Bakugan game. It's the most interesting, and the other ones I just don't think were very good. Again, Gen 1 and the toy battling of Gen 2 were just really kind of bland yet bloated. It wasn't a great mix. Gen 3 is, it's Gen 3. And then the other TCG was a cool idea, but I don't think it really was the right way to make a Bakugan game. Again, the Bakugan should be the main focus, and the Bakugan, in my opinion, really weren't the main focus. And BakuTech, it just did the best overall. So if we ever get to Gen 4, I really, really hope Master kind of looks at BakuTech and understands that maybe having a physical game that's skill-based is a really cool idea. Because I think it has a lot of potential, and again, with some expansions, I think could have been really, really great. And I think had great groundwork. Everything about this was great. It's just that, yeah, you could definitely build on this concept. And I think, again, they were trying to with Armors, but ran out of time. So, that's it. That's all I have to say. Hopefully this video made enough sense. It was kind of all over the place, but that was interesting anyway. So, yeah, anyways, that's all I gotta say. So, thanks for watching, and bye-bye.